Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your virtual whiz around the site. I'm sure you will have encountered some technical difficulties as we went, but I hope you got a flavour of what we're able to offer here. I certainly enjoyed popping into all the sessions, and particularly listening to our poets talking about Raymond Carver. That was fantastic for a Saturday morning. We are here gathered, but distanced, to answer your questions, some of which have already come up on the chat, which is great, but keep them coming. We have somebody behind the scenes who is going to feed them into Ben Turner here, who's our Deputy Head Pastoral. We've also got on the stage next to him Claire Duncan, our Deputy Head Academic. Claire is also a maths specialist. And next to her, you may have just seen her talking about technology in our learning. That's Susie Pett, our Director of Studies, who's an English specialist. And then, front and centre where they should be, are our brilliant sixth formers, who I will ask to introduce themselves, if that's all right, girls. So just who you are, your role, anything interesting you think people might want to know. So starting with Jess.
I'm Jess. I'm the head girl here at Wimbledon High, and I'm more on the art side of things. I like English, humanities, languages, that kind of thing.
Hi, I'm Lizzie. I'm the music rep for school, and I take biology, chemistry and maths.
Hi, I'm Malin. I'm the sport captain of the school and I do biology, maths, but then also Spanish to kind of mix it up.
Brilliant, thank you. And we're obviously going to be asking the girls to address as many of your questions as possible. I'm going to kick off though by talking about admissions. We have had our registrar Isla discussing this during the hour that you were away, but I'm aware, certainly from the questions that are coming up, that it may be that some of you still aren't quite sure in this very unusual year what our approach is. So you may know from our comms that we have had to, reluctantly, I have to say, change our usual very bespoke, dare I say it, quirky Wimbledon High approach to admissions, and instead we have moved to the ISEB, which I'm sure you'll be familiar with, and may I say as well that our HMC, GSA and indeed GDST partner schools have pretty much to a man and woman made the same decision for all sorts of practical reasons. What that means is that your daughter will sit as the first round, the ISEB, somewhere between now and January, either in her own school or here in January if her school isn't able to facilitate it. One of the questions that we were asked on the chat was, how will you differentiate for the girls who take it earlier? It is weighted and staged according to age and the time that you sit it. So if you sit it in November, that is taken into account versus January. Other questions have been, what's the cut-off point for performance at ISEB? And indeed, one of the questions was, what will you do if lots of girls get 100%? Well, that's what our second round is for. So just to give you an idea of numbers, we have 100 spaces in year 7, it's a 4-form entry. We bring about 40, usually, of our junior school girls up through into the senior school. So that means there's about 60 places up for grabs. And we usually have somewhere between 600 and 650 applications for those places. So we will look to take through between 300 and 350 girls into our second round from the ISEB. And during that round, they will have an online experience. We're not calling it an interview because it won't be an interview. We don't really like interviews at 11 plus because what we find is that the girls can be very, very prepped for those, and we'd really much rather get to know them authentically. So we'll be asking them to engage in an exploration online with us, with one of our senior members of staff here, to then whittle down the girls that we've brought through from that 350. Now, obviously all details of that will come out once we've got all of our data. To talk about the ISEB more generally, the reason that we've chosen it is for a first round, it matches most closely our VR and MVR approach that we use for 11 plus assessment. Again, we prefer that because we find it's a little bit more tutor proof. In terms of prepping for the ISEB, therefore, if you look, they do have a sample question online available, but also brushing up your VR and MVR skills would not harm you at all. We usually recommend 2 or 3 papers just to familiarise yourself with the type of questions. On the ISEB paper, there's also a little bit of maths and a little bit of English. We would usually look to assess that in the second round as part of our creative morning that unfortunately we can't offer you this year, very frustratingly. So we will be taking that into account, but we will weight much more towards the VR and MVR. Isla's just here, controlling, pulling my strings from behind the scenes. Is there anything, Isla, you think I should add?
The only thing I'd say is it's the ISEB common pretest specifically.
There we go. So I hope that answers your admissions questions. And again, you know, so sorry that we're not able to do what we would normally do, which is a really exciting day of exploration for the girls. But we hope the second round we will make really enjoyable in any case. And now over to Ben, who's going to be filtering our questions. Ben.
Thank you so much, Fanula. Hello, everyone. I'm going to start with a question here about languages, and Claire, maybe you could field this one. So, you know, what languages do we do? How do we support bilingual? That kind of.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. As far as languages are concerned, when they turn up in year 7, everybody will do Latin, and then along with that, they'll choose 2 of the 3 modern foreign languages. So 2 from French, German, and Spanish. And then they will carry on to do that and then maybe choose whatever for GCSE. As far as bilingual are concerned, we support them in doing early GCSEs if they choose to do so, and they would tend to do them in year 9 or year 10. I was going to ask the girls actually, what languages did you end up doing? I know Malin, you mentioned they're doing something at A level as well.
Yeah, well, I am bilingual myself, and I speak Japanese and then obviously English. So I did my Japanese A level in year 9 when I joined, and that was a really easy process to do with the school. And then now I'm doing Spanish as well. And then actually for GCSE, I did 5 languages in fact. So English, Mandarin, Japanese, French, and Spanish. So I think
did you? I don't remember sanctioning that.
So it's fair to say that it's definitely, like, if you want to do languages, you will be supported in doing them.
I had a bit of a different situation. I'm hearing impaired, so I really struggled with doing some of the languages. It wasn't something that I was particularly passionate about pursuing. So for GCSE, I did Latin instead because it sort of suited me a lot better. So the school definitely supported me in doing that, just because it suited me a lot better.
I took Spanish and French at GCSE, and I continued French to the A level. I had a really hard time picking between them, which I think is just a testament to the wonderful departments. And I don't think I can demonstrate the prowess of the languages department any more than Malin can.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Do you want to mention Mandarin, Claire?
Yes, yeah, we have introduced Mandarin. In fact, this year the girls are going to be doing it a pre-U, a Mandarin, and we have it at GCSE as well. So Mandarin is offered to Key Stage 3 as a club, and then they can take it as a GCSE from year 10 onwards. Just on the point of languages there, you can see from what the girls' answers are that we do actually look at their personal situation and we do things that suit them, so that they can flourish in whatever their chosen path might be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Melanie, I'm going to come back to you if that's okay, and put you on the spot about some of our sport. So we have a question here about how inclusive is your sport?
So I'd say that inclusivity is the main goal for our sports department, and we strive to give everyone an opportunity to get involved if that's what they want to do. So, for example, last year for our year 7 netball, we had 9 teams from A till I. So I think that really shows that if anyone wants to play, they can play, regardless of their level of ability.
Absolutely. I mean, to be clear, the I team did not have quite as many fixtures as the A team. I don't want anyone to get that impression, mainly because it's quite hard to find other I teams to play against. But the idea is we really believe in learning about teamwork and actually representing your school, being competitive, enjoying that feeling. And we also obviously support our more elite sportswomen like Malin. We have a high performance sports programme. And we have many girls who represent the school, obviously, but also the county and in some cases the country in lots of sports, from your more traditional hockeys, netballs, etc., all the way to fencing. We've had ballroom dancing national winners, rock climbers, all sorts of things. So sports are really important. And I think particularly in a world where we're quite screen-based, aren't we, all of us, it's so important to get out under the sky, get muddy, and really use our bodies to stay well and be strong. We're really emphasise that to our girls.
Lovely, thank you. We've got a question here about buses and school buses, and then we'll wind up a little bit about how we can support the girls coming into the school. No, we don't run a school bus service, but what we do as part of our Year 7 induction is make sure that you as parents and the girls are buddied up with geographical buddies. And we are, obviously in Wimbledon, a massive transport hub. So there's all sorts of ways of getting to school, and we think it's part of that growing up process, moving from the primary to the secondary, and supporting the girls in that, and starting to give them a little bit more autonomy from mum and dad in those kind of ways. Girls, do you want to very quickly run through how you get to school? straw poll.
I take the train 4 stops from Surbiton to Wimbledon. It's very convenient. There's also a girl in the year below me who takes the same train, so that can be a good way to get to know other people from the school.
Yeah, so I get the train from Arsenal to Wimbledon. It's really easy, it takes 4 minutes, and there's always so many people on the train, like from Wimbledon, that you just talk to people from your own year and other years.
Yeah, I also take the train from Sutton, like 12 minutes, so it's really easy again.
We're incredibly lucky. We're 4 minutes walk from the station, which also has a tram stop from Croydon, obviously a tube line as well. Really, we are quite the hub, so we're very, very lucky.
So many ways. Thank you. Pernilla, I might come to you for this one, and I can chip in. We've got a question here about what are you doing to create a truly inclusive environment? What steps are being taken to ensure that the staff and pupils are representative of the wider UK society, and how do staff embody diversity?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing I would say is that Wimbledon High has always and rightly been known as a place of tolerance and kindness. We are quite a quirky community. We allow people to be themselves and always have. Obviously, this question has been enormously put back at the centre of the map by the Black Lives Matter movements that happened during lockdown, and rightly so. So what I would say is that we are a very accepting, tolerant community. LGBTQ+ is something that we are enormously vocal about. We are a Stonewall school, and we are very proud of that. We are also a very diverse school culturally. What we would say really clearly is that our borough of Merton is more heavily represented by Black people than our school is. We know that is something we're working on, both in terms of our reaching the community in terms of bursaries, but also about really educating ourselves, diversifying our curriculum where necessary, and so on. We have a pupil voice committee set up exactly to help lead us in this, and lots of thought. But what we are really clear about is that this is a permanent and ongoing change that we are looking to make, not something that is knee-jerk or tokenistic. And real embedded change takes time and it takes careful thought. But we also are really lucky because we work with young people, and young people have the attitude and the excitement and the energy to keep us on our mettle about this. That's really important as well. Anything you wanted to add, Ben, or girls, to any of that?
No, I just think that, so our SLT, which is the student leadership team that we're all a part of, is one of our biggest goals this year. And every meeting we have every week, it gets brought up, and like what more we can do to try and improve the diversity and improve the inclusivity. So it's definitely something that we're working on.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Lizzie.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. So moving now to settling girls into school, and I'm going to come to you first, and then I'll chip in with sort of any pastoral things as well. How are girls helped to settle in and feel comfortable going from the big girls in their primary schools to the little girls in the large senior school? You can think back.
I would say that clubs have a massive part in that. I remember when I joined in year 7, and I'm sure it's still the same today. I joined a lot of music clubs and met a lot of girls from older years who were really friendly and made genuine friendships with them. And I think that definitely helped to settle me in. And yeah, so I think clubs can play a huge role in that.
Yeah, I would agree. I came in year 9, so there were less new girls than there would be if I came in year 7. But it wasn't any harder to settle in because I remember, like Lizzie said, I joined the netball club, or I tried the netball club, and after that, like a community was kind of formed between me and other people on the team, so it was really easy to just make friends like that.
Jess, do you want to talk about peer counselling a bit?
Yeah, definitely. We have a team called peer counsellors who are people from year 12 and 13, the 6th form, who go into each form, and they're on hand if you have maybe a concern that you don't necessarily want to talk to a teacher about, if you want some advice from, you know, a sort of big sister figure. But they're also there to make the environment just feel more welcoming, you know, lead some discussions in your form times, that kind of thing. And I think even though clubs are such a big part, and I definitely agree about that with making friends, It's also just the school atmosphere. It's really, really friendly. I joined in year 7 knowing no one, not from my school, not from outside of school. And according to someone I'm very close friends with now, I don't remember this at all, but I came up to her on the first day and said, I don't know anyone here. Can I talk to you? And she said yes.
That's about right, Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave her no choice, right?
I bulldozed my way into that friendship, but it worked.
Brilliant. And the only thing I would add is that obviously we have a pastoral team dedicated to year 7 and making sure that there's lots of different steps that we take, from buddy systems with year 8 to going away over a weekend to do team building and really mixing up friendship groups, all sorts of activities that try and form those friendships early on and getting girls into the school life as quickly as possible and sort of embodying that wonderful spirit as quickly as we can. Okay, I'm going to move to academic question for the wider academic team here. We've got a question about what were your GCSE and A-level results for 2020 and how many girls got Oxbridge offers?
Okay, I might just come in here because it's one of my favourite topics actually at the moment, is the omni-shambles that was the way in which exam results turned out this summer. So our exam results were very, very strong this summer. They always are, to be clear. So last year, which I'll talk about, so 2019, for example, at A-level, we had 32% A-star, which is very, very healthy indeed. And at GCSE, we were around 79% A-star, or 9 to 8, which is the equivalent, I'm sure you know, grade now. We were slightly up on that this year, but up only, I would say, a very sensible amount, considering that we ourselves were putting those grades in. So we went up from 32% A-star to around 36%, which is about where we think our trajectory would have gone anyway. What I would say, though, is that there's absolutely no parity between the way in which schools worked out their centre assessed grades this year. So it's a very difficult measure, I think, between schools for you as prospective parents to use. So my advice to you as an educator, but also just as a human being, is I would really look at 2019 and perhaps the year or two before that when you are comparing schools, because 2020 I don't see as a really balanced measure across schools. What I would say is we are always in the top 20 for both GCSEs and A-levels, and our girls do astonishingly well. They are very, very capable and very, very good at exams, I have to say. However, that's not our focus, as I said in our introduction. So I don't want to add anything about that. We're really hoping they get to sit them this summer. That's what I would say. There's a bigger question around how fit for purpose GCSEs in particular are anyway, and certainly some of my colleagues and I are thinking about this and trying to lead a bit of a charge about making GCSEs much more reflective of what it is that learning should look like in 2020, 2021. But at the moment, all we want is the chance for our girls to sit their exams and not have that, as well as all sorts of other things, be taken away from them. Isn't that right, girls?
Yeah.
Yes.
Lovely. Sort of teaching and learning question here, Susie, about opportunities for the girls to learn about design, thinking, entrepreneurship, those kinds of bringing things together.
Well, last year we worked with the GDST, with some of our year 11s on a design thinking programme, and excitingly, as our year 11s have transitioned into year 12, we've capitalised on that, and we're now working with an all-female consultancy all about design thinking and creating a currency about this within our schools. So we have gurus in the sixth form that are really encouraging the students lower down the school. We are really interested in encouraging brave, bold, empathetic, solution-focused thinkers, and indeed that really does tie in with our STEAM Plus philosophy, where we're tinkering, playing with big, bold ideas, and thinking around, very holistically around problems to find solutions for an increasingly complex 21st century world.
Absolutely. In fact, we had year 6 in only this Thursday to the Steam Tower, and they were building rockets. And I said to one of them, as a joke, and it's never joke with year 6, are you going to set them off inside or outside? And she said, oh, Ms. Kennedy, if we set them off inside, we'd blow up the whole steam tower, and then you might be cross. Oh, yes, I might. They're not real rockets at year 6, they're made of paper. They were taking it very seriously. And again, it was about really exactly that, design thinking. Here's a problem, how are we going to solve it? We know those are the skills that our girls are going to need as they go into their futures. And actually, we need people thinking like that right now so that we can get a vaccine. And so I'm looking at our scientists here. The onus is on you.
I just think that the great thing about what we've done recently is we've been working with women across the GDST. So the project that our year 11s did saw them connecting, discussing, conversing, problem solving, not just with their peers at Wimbledon High School, but with their peers across the country within our GDST family. So we're very, very interested in how solutions can be found when we broaden our connections.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Lizzie.
Thank you. Lizzie, I'm going to come to you because I know that you're one of the people that is working on our house music competition. We've got a question here about, are there houses within the school?
Yes, there are. There's 4 houses, and these you get put into them in year 7, and you stay in the same houses throughout your whole career. And there are multiple house events that happen throughout the year. Some of the highlights are house drama, which is in year 7. All girls have to be part of a play within their house that's really great for bonding. I remember ours, we did the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was a lot of fun. And so that's one of the highlights. And one of the other highlights for me personally is house music, which happens every year. And this is happening obviously slightly differently this year because we can't have each house singing together. But basically what happens is there's multiple categories, and it's just a big inter-house event that's so much fun. It always ends in a disco, and there's a lot of house rivalry, which I think is really really fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, it's the only downside of having become head is I've had to give up my allegiance to my beloved house, Arnold. Although I have to say they have been on a downward trajectory over the last couple of years, so maybe it's time for me to make a dignified exit before they really become fourth and everything. But yeah, it's a lovely system, and it does always end in a disco. I have fond memories of dancing with Lucy Dennett when she was in year 7, both of us in our green Arnold tights to Dancing Queen. It was a great moment.
Thank you. To the students, what would you like to be when you grow up, and how has your school helped you prepare?
Can I go first?
Yes.
This is a testament to Miss Kennedy because she's my English teacher and that's what I want to be.
Seriously, that is true, and I was as surprised as you are to hear that. I did say I don't know any kids who want to be teachers. I certainly didn't want to be, but I am delighted that that's true for Jess. She'll be astonishingly good, way better than I could ever have been. Yeah, that's good, Jess. So how are we helping you to do that, Jess?
We have a lot of programs where you can sort of take leadership in the school, even if it's just giving a presentation, but also like helping out younger years, leading clubs that are really educational, like the Literature Society for me is obviously quite important, but also just giving you the tools of sort of confidence and empowerment to do any career that you want. For me, it's teaching, but for others, it might be something different.
Jess, remind me, because we didn't answer the Oxbridge question that was attached to the exams question, so we'll come back to that and perhaps we can talk about that. But Lizzie, you next.
So I want to go into scientific research, particularly in the area of genetics and genetic diseases. The school's definitely helped me a lot. The STEAM initiative has been particularly helpful for that. And I'm just thinking of one club in particular, which I've been working in the last year, where we've been given access to a massive data set from Wimbledon tennis. It's basically all the points that have happened in the last 15 years of the championships. And I've been working on data analysis of it. And then I'm currently in the process of writing a paper which will be submitted to a journal. And that's something that's very, very standout and very, very unique for Wimbledon. So that should definitely help my application in the future.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the opposite to these two in that I don't really have a concrete idea as to what career path I want to go into in the future. But I think school's really helped me because I used to, last year I had a few panicky moments where I got a bit stressed about having to choose to do something, but the careers team that we have in school is so good, and they just kind of told me that I don't have to have a fixed path right now, and I can honestly do whatever I want to do in the future, and I can always change once I do something and choose to do something else instead. So yeah, they just kind of showed me the realities of life, and that not everyone knows that they want to be a doctor or a teacher or anything. So yeah.
Brilliant, thank you, girls. And to go back to the Oxbridge question, so we usually have around 15% of our year group who receive Oxbridge offers. A couple of things I'd say here before I ask the girls to talk about what the preparation for that looks like. So obviously this is quite a timely question for them with their tests coming up very soon, and then fingers crossed interviews thereafter. Being a Oxford alum myself, I absolutely know the power and the privilege of having tutorial-based teaching, particularly for subjects like mine, English Lit, However, I also know that Oxbridge is not necessarily the 2 best places for every single course, and not necessarily the best place for every single child. And so we do make sure that what we are not doing is forcing anybody down that route just because it looks sort of impressive. And also that we are staying up to date with what is on offer at university level, because some of the new courses and the exciting movement that's happening in universities wasn't even dreamed of when I was applying back in 1998. There you go, girls. That's how old I am. So Jess, do you want to talk a bit about your Oxbridge prep?
So the Oxbridge prep, for me, I knew that I wanted to apply to the within school programme, but I do think it's important to note that there are a lot of people who kind of went to get a taster and they either decided it was for them or they decided and then kind of maybe went off it. It's quite open to everyone, you know, it's very accessible. So what happens for me, I'm an English candidate and I have a meeting regularly where I get an unseen text in a sort of preparation for both the admissions test and for an interview scenario. And then we work on oral modelling, for example, which is speaking in a sort of erudite and formal way. And it just makes you feel a lot more confident in your own abilities and able to really express your thoughts clearly. For me, obviously, it's about being written and verbal, but I'm sure we'll find out more about how the STEM subjects conduct their Oxbridge prep. But I will say it is just fantastic. And we've had a lot of opportunities. For example, for me, they're arranging with an external, an English teacher from a different school to have like a mock interview, that kind of thing. They really go above and beyond.
So I'm applying for biochemistry at Oxford, and so similar, the one-on-one mentoring sort of style. I have a one-on-one meeting for 40 minutes every week with the director of science at school, and often I come with something that I've researched to discuss, and similarly to Jess was saying, I have a little bit of issues explaining myself clearly, so I can understand concepts, but I struggle a little bit to explain it in a concise and direct way. So I've just been working on that mostly. Yeah.
I haven't noticed you struggling to explain yourself in a direct and concise way during this, Lizzie, I have to say. I wish I struggled in that way. Alan?
Yeah, so I'm applying for natural sciences at Cambridge, and similarly to these two, I'm also involved in a little Oxbridge group. So I'm with 2 other people who are applying to similar subjects, and we meet every other week with a biology teacher at our school, and so she asks us to read a book or a chapter of a book, or and then when we come and meet, we discuss and present our ideas that we took from the book to each other. And so I think it's really good because I learn about what I read, but then I also learn about what the other 2 read, which is quite easy because then I get 3 ideas at once instead of me having to read 3 things separately. So yeah, it's really good.
Brilliant. Thank you, girls.
I'm very aware that we're running out of time, and we've perhaps got time for one more question, so I might try and sort of shoehorn a few together if I can. One of the most interesting and unique, I mean, because your girls will be going into year 7, I think these are probably the most apt ones. One of the most interesting and unique school trips offered to the girls, particularly those in year 7. And then we'll talk about our community outreach programme. Can we talk a little bit about that? Maybe our Shine programme. And do we do charity fundraising? And I'm going to sort of group those all together, and I'm going to throw them all over to you girls. And then
Lizzie's desperate to say something.
I'm desperate to talk about trips. So I've been on so many brilliant trips. The highlight of my whole school career probably was our trip to China last year, a little bit over a year ago. It was amazing. So we went on a 9-day trip and we went around so many places, and it was basically a cultural trip to learn more about China. But I've also been on multiple sports tours that were super fun. I think the earliest one was in year 8, so very applicable to girls applying in entering in year 7. And also last year we had a music tour. We went to Belgium. The orchestra went to Belgium to play in a lot of beautiful churches and things, and that was really exciting. And one thing I was quite distraught about because of Corona was a trip to Sri Lanka that got cancelled, which is part of a charity partnership. So we've been raising money all year to help with this charity partnership, which is basically where we go and help girls in an orphanage in Sri Lanka helping them build their self-esteem and self-confidence after like a lot of bad things have happened in their life. So yeah, we were really upset that we couldn't do that because no one else goes and visits this orphanage. It's just us. So yeah, that was really upsetting. But they'll be running that again multiple times. So
that's an ongoing partnership that we've built with a very small charity called Girls for Girls. And so the first time we went, one of the things that they needed was a bakery in order to be self-funding as a girls' home. And so these amazing girls here raised the money for them to be able to have that facility opened. And so Lizzie and co were going to go over and see that in action and also then start to think about the next phases for that. So we're still raising money for them, but we can't go and see them just yet. I wondered, actually, Susie, did you want to jump in there about Ikenkan?
Yes. We work with a group of schools in Ghana, and the idea is that we learn from each other and we support literacy by we talk with the Ghanaian teachers throughout the year. We write bespoke storybooks for Ghanaian children and we publish them, and every 2 years we go to Ghana and we read those books with the children, and what our students learn from the Ghanaian students and vice versa is absolutely phenomenal. It's a trip of a lifetime, and this is a connection that we've had for a very long time now. And we also promote the idea of women learning from each other. So we sit down with the cooks at the school and we hear all about their life, and they learn all about our life, and it's women coming together to really share experiences across the world.
And again, she's very humble, Susie, but to be clear, she set this charity up. It was her idea many years ago and she brought it to Wimbledon High with her, and the girls absolutely love it, and the beauty of the books they produce is unreal. So well done, Susie. I knew she wouldn't tell you herself. And Claire, did you want to talk about Japan? Because that's very relevant to Year 7.
It is relevant to Year 7. So I was fortunate enough to be part of the trip that goes to Japan. It's an exchange trip, and we work with King's Boys School on this as well. So we have a joint trip with the boys and the girls. We go out. So I went last October with the Year 8s. When they were Year 7, they had the exchange partners come from Japan to stay in their homes, and then we took them back to Japan to experience what life was like in Japan, and the whole experience was amazing. Just being in a completely different school, it was school based. So they went into school, they experienced the lessons, and then they stayed with the families in Japan. And yeah, it's an amazing experience. Yeah.
Fantastic. We have a plethora of trips, both internationally, nationally, day, week, 2 weeks, etc. As you can imagine, not a huge number happening at the moment, but what we do have is VR headsets, so we're able to travel while sitting down in our classrooms. So that's wrapping that little section up.
Shine.
Oh, so also, yes, partnerships. So every single girl in Year 11, 12 and 13 is asked to give up their Thursday afternoon to go out into the community to enrich their own experiences and also reach out to others. So obviously what we do is we go into care homes, homes for the elderly, but also we have really, really important partnerships with our local state, lots of primary schools and some secondary schools, where we do something called Teach Together. So perhaps that state primary may have had their funding cut for music or for languages, and what we would do is go in and teach Latin or really help enrich the music programme with our brilliant sixth formers and Year 11s, and then of course forge those individual relationships. We also run a programme called Shine on a Saturday morning. Have any of you been a Shine mentor? Too sporty, that's the problem. On a Saturday morning, our girls give up 10 weeks of Saturday mornings, and we bring in children from local schools who are disadvantaged in a number of ways, and our sixth form mentor them one-to-one, and they are able to use our facilities and have lessons and experiences here with our staff. And then at the end, we have a big dance and a celebration ceremony, and it's one of the greatest mornings actually in the year, apart from open morning. So yeah, we know it's really important, not only for our girls' development, but actually also as a school, we take our responsibility very seriously to our local community, and it's something that as our facilities grow, we are really looking to continue to build as well.
Yeah, that's a good place to.
That's gone very quickly. I hope that we've answered as many of your questions as possible, but if we haven't, please do get in touch with us. The senior admissions email is the one to use. You can find it on the website, but we really look forward. We hope, fingers crossed, in the spring to be able to welcome lots of you through our doors once again. And I hope you go on to have an absolutely lovely weekend. Thank you to our brilliant panel, and thank you, of course, to our tech team who you can't see, who are sitting behind the scenes. Have a great weekend. Thanks, everyone.